Us right now to weigh in on the latest allegations and possible lawsuit is LifeZette Editor-in-Chief Laura Ingraham. Laura, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. What's your reaction first to this scandal surrounding Donald Trump, as the New York Times reports it this morning, Laura?
Well, I think we've officially entered the realm of the absurd. The same New York Times that lionized Ted Kennedy, that endorsed Bill Clinton twice, is now going to try to shape public opinion on the issue of these types of, interactions between Trump and various women over 3 decades, I guess. What's clear is that there's a divide in America, Maria. There's a divide about what the Constitution provides, what the role of the government is, how to turn this economy around, what it means to have an entire group of Americans distrust the police. And whether people get rid of Donald Trump, whether they defeat him or not, all those problems are going to be there on November 9th. They're still going to be there. And as far as I can tell, the New York Times and the Washington Post and most of the major networks are not interested in actually having a real debate on these issues, the actual issues that affect our children, that will affect our grandchildren, and that will affect our security, our safety, our economy. Those issues are generally swept to the side as the press runs to whatever victim will, share a story from years back.
Right.
And I think the country is being poorly served by a media that is distrusted, and the country has to decide. Are they going to allow the elite liberal media to decide this election, or are they going to decide the election on the issues and the records of both individuals, both in business and in politics? And I certainly hope it's the latter.
That's what we've been talking about this morning. And the fact is there was no mention of any of the emails from the Wikileaks dump in so many of the mainstream media sites, like Dagan mentioned Politico earlier. Yeah. It's all about negative attacks on Trump. There's just no concentration whatsoever on the other side in terms of the negative stories there.
And, Maria, when they mention WikiLeaks, like the New York Times today, the title of the piece above the fold is "Leaked Emails About Clinton, Heart and Rival." There's no substance about the emails. It's just, oh, there are these emails out there, and Donald Trump's going to try to take advantage of them. Versus how they're well, we've interviewed 5 women, and we went back and tried to find contemporaneous witnesses. So they're really interested in doing digging on the Trump dirt, but they're interested in glossing over all the WikiLeaks revelations, which reflect poorly on the press.
And Laura, these emails are anti-Catholic. They are anti-faith. They show the left and the liberal disdain for people who are devoted to a faith. And by the way, what about the needy Latino email? How does this not get covered? Instead, the top stories on Politico this morning when I was sitting in my office, the 7 oddest things that Donald Trump thinks. Check out Trump tape, how Democrats are using Trump's hot mic, and then inside Clinton's fragile relationship with Democrats. Those are 3 of the 4.
Politico is essentially a super PAC for Hillary. It has been throughout the entire election season. It's all left-wing. Everyone should know that. It should be called liberal Politico. It shouldn't be called Political. So we all know that. But you're right. The disdain and the arrogance and the revulsion expressed by Jennifer Palmieri and separately John Podesta about the Catholic Church, about evangelicals. We know what they think about evangelicals. They think they're a bunch of redneck idiots, right? And now with Catholics, it's the same thing. So again, this is going to require voters to think beyond the headlines, because the headlines are not telling the story. The journalists are not doing their jobs. I talked about this in my convention speech. It got a pretty good reaction when I did, because people know what's going on. They are trying to shape public opinion beyond the abysmal economy, the abysmal foreign policy. 8 years after Obama, America's in decline and China's on the rise. Absolutely. They do not want to debate that.
I want to get Steve Hilton here in for a second, because he was really in the whole middle of the Brexit situation when Britain voted to leave the EU. But you make such a good point, Laura, because the people are onto it. We just got a tweet from one of our viewers. This is from, he calls himself So Deplorable. Thanks, So Deplorable. And he writes, seriously, what's next? Did Trump kill JFK and help NASA fake the moon landing? I mean, the people are onto this so much. It's almost helping Donald Trump, certainly with his base, because they don't believe a word of what comes out of the New York Times and the Washington Post at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump has to broaden out, obviously, from the base, and that's what they're trying to kill off here with the excessive coverage, the singular coverage of the Trumpo scandal of the day. Whatever that is, they're gonna do that, because if they don't, they actually have to say, oh my gosh, we're getting another downgrade on our GDP forecast next year by the OECD, or, oh my goodness, it looks like there's another diplomatic crisis with Russia and the EU. We have no ability to control any of that anymore because they're a power in decline. So they're not going to cover those stories. They're going to cover the salacious stories and hope there are enough women who are gullible enough to say, oh, Donald Trump's a terrible person, so he can't run the economy well. Or Hillary Clinton is just aggrieved, but she has all these great ideas about economic growth that she's been hiding from Barack Obama for the last 8 years. I mean, it's kind of obvious who has a better approach to growth and prosperity, which is the #1 problem facing our country today, and it's Trump. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.